Welcome back. It's season 3 of Money Watch. I don't know if you're as excited as I am, because I'm very excited, because in 2022, there's a lot that I feel I'm behind in bringing out for discussion. The staff level agreement that we've gotten into with the IMF, of course, you've heard as of today, the crude oil prices are at record highs since 2014 in the $90 a barrel range, of course, and they're projected to go even up to $100 a barrel. The new pricing model by ERB, Energy Regulation Board, monthly basis. So that also coming up in the coming episodes for discussion. But for now, in our first episode, we are going digital. All right, we are going digital because, and as you know, even our Spring TV when we started, we were mostly on digital platforms before we went to Topstar Channel 109 and soon to be DSTV. But I'm excited for this new season 3 of Money Watch Weekly, and what better way to start than bringing a digital expert to discuss digital transformation in Zambia and how that impacts on you, me, and even businesses in general. I have Mr. Rafael Maseko from INQ Digital Zambia. If you don't know INQ, it was formerly known as AfriConnect, but you tell us more about that. But he's here to break down digital transformation and how that impacts on our businesses. Good evening, sir. Welcome to Money Watch Weekly.
Evening.
I'm happy to have you.
Delighted.
I feel like you were supposed to have come a long time ago. I don't know where you've been, or is it my fault? You should have come right after the new Dawn, because when they came up with the Ministry of Technology, we should have come running to you to say, come and help us understand what's going on.
Maybe we were watching the future first. You watch before you...
Indeed. Good to have you, sir. And I want us to go into this discussion on digital transformation in general. What is digital transformation? Just for people to understand out there.
All right. Good evening. Digital transformation has been described in many ways. And I think some of the definitions that have come up are quite complicated.
Right.
But I want to maybe give a very simplified version of what digital transformation is. The easiest way to look at digital transformation is the adoption of digital technologies in changing the way organizations operate. That is the simplistic definition of digital transformation. But what exactly does it mean?
Exactly.
You know, if we look around, I think one of the things that we all agree on is that there has been a rapid change in terms of technologies. Let's look at the common technology that we use, the mobile phone, for instance. I think some years ago, if you wanted to do anything from using your phone, there was something that was called GPRS.
Of course, I remember.
Then it moved to Edge.
Yes.
Then we had 3G. There's 4G. Now we're talking about 5G. I think there's some experimental deployment of 5G in the country. There are other technologies that we talk about, like Internet of Things or IoT. We talk about other technologies that have driven things like cryptocurrency, that's blockchain technology. We're talking about other technologies such as cloud computing, which has changed totally the way things are done, businesses are run.
Right.
There are all these technologies that are coming up, but the question is, to what use? What we're seeing is that these technologies are causing a change in trends in businesses.
Right.
If you look at our output, number one, digital technologies are influencing the way businesses are being done, one. The second thing is that social media. Social media. You know, some years ago when we talked about social media, it was more of a play thing. It's leisure stuff. But today, social media is a channel that is being used for business, you know. And an organization or a business that ignores social media is choosing to be ignored.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and then you would see that there's been an adoption. People have become comfortable with digital platforms. So that is also driving trends in businesses. The other area which everyone will talk about today is the impact of COVID. I think COVID has given us a wake-up call and say,
in fact, I was going to ask to say, obviously there was a trajectory that was easily followed as we were transforming step by step, but the advent of COVID kind of catapulted from step X to step wherever we are now in terms of transformation, isn't it?
That is very true. That is very true, because things that were seen as optional became mandatory.
Exactly.
Yeah. Technologies that we said, oh, well, it's optional.
Yeah.
But when COVID came, restrictions came, you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. People had to find ways of changing the way that the businesses are conducted. So digital technology is digital transformation is an unavoidable trend.
Yeah.
We have nations talking about fourth revolutions.
Yeah.
It's all about digital transformation, if you ask me.
Yeah, interesting. Now, with every change, there are risks involved.
Correct.
So before we talk about the benefits of, in fact, I'll just ask the question and I involve both sides. Mm-hmm. It comes with benefits as we transform digitally, but also you can't avoid or ignore the risks that may come with the transformation. Can you help us understand on one side what the benefits are of this transformation that we're in, but also what risks or challenges that people should look out for?
Okay. I like to classify the benefits of digital transformation in about 3 or 4 categories.
Right.
The first one that I put on top is customer experience. Now, what's the correlation between digital transformation and customer experience? I'll ask you a question. When was the last time you walked into a bank?
That's a good question. It's a very good question.
The yesterday bank is if you needed to do a transfer, for instance, you wanted to do maybe an international transfer or just a transfer to another bank.
You would
have to go to the bank.
To the branch, yeah.
You'll be given what do you call it? Real-time
RTGS form, yeah.
Yes,
real-time gross settlement form, yeah.
You sign your signature, they'll check your signature, and then you leave for that transaction.
Correct.
Today you do it on your phone. What does that do to you as a customer of that bank? It enhances your customer experience. You don't have to spend fuel to drive around and do that.
Yeah.
So there's customer experience. The way you interact with businesses. I've picked on the financial institution because today you can open an account without walking into the bank. Today you can transact without walking in the bank. You can engage with your bank without really walking into the bank.
Yeah.
That is on the customer experience. It's the same when it comes to whether it's media, whether it's education.
Yeah.
So there's an element of customer experience that is driving digital transformation. The other thing is efficiency, because when you put in digital transformation has got different levels, and it may include automation, it may include change in terms of collaboration. There are extremes where you have to put in robotics and things like that. They all depending on the sector in which you are. But at the core of it is you're bringing in efficiency in the way that you do things. True. I mean, I know there are still companies today where if you want to apply for leave, you go to HR, you fill in a form, you take it to person A, B, C, and D. If that person is out in the field or not, you are stuck, you have to wait. But you have online kind of platforms that you can do that from your mobile phone and things like that. That is efficiency in an organization. You also have the element of cost reduction. Everyone is trying to make sure that their bottom line is good. Yeah. And the traditional business model has a challenge in terms of you've got shrinking or diminishing margins.
Correct.
So if you can put in processes that reduces the wastage of time, reduces the wastage of resources, and also creates an efficiency, it creates a quick marketing tool. You have a product, you want to get it quick into the market, you use processes that are, you're able to reach your clientele on a click of a button and things like that. It means that you are enhancing your bottom line and you're actually reducing your expenses. So it's a cost reduction in there. Yeah, so you have all those as benefits that come with digital transformation. Yeah.
Now, in terms of risks, what would be areas where people can look out for? I know we've got an upswing of scammers. Yeah, because with every enhancement in technology or anything that we use as human beings, there's somebody who's trying to learn how to circumvent that, to steal money mostly and inconvenience users and the general public. So what are some of the risks that one may face as we are transforming digitally? I'll also ask you, as we transform, there are companies or people that will lose out as we're transforming. So who are the gainers and winners in this transformation?
Okay. So because it's a transformation is not like a gradual change. There are some drastic decisions.
Of course,
there are some drastic changes in the whole thing. I think yesterday or this morning I was watching a clip where a journalist in South Africa was saying that the amount of raids on CIT trucks has increased and things like that. And in my mind, I was thinking, why do we still move such huge amount of money in this generation?
Yeah.
So the use of cash, for instance, has its own risk. And usually you have loss of life when it comes to that. Similarly, when you talk about, maybe if we talk about the financial sector and digital transformation, now that you can transact using your devices and things like that, it means that there will be people that are aiming at disrupting, aiming at stealing from you. Yeah. So yes, that is a real risk that we live with. There are two angles to it in terms of how do we deal with it. I think one of it is that there is a full universe of technology called cybersecurity. So you've got experts that study cybersecurity, such that you put in measures of detection, you put in measures of avoidance, mitigation, and all those. So cybersecurity comes in as part of the, it's unavoidable because you're dealing with digital platform, you need to know how to protect that. But I think for me, it's not really the technology that we need to worry about. It's about educating people about being security conscious. Because in any case, when you have a scam, it's all about social engineering. Very few people literally hack into the system and steal.
Yeah.
Most people lure people to actually freely give them their access.
That's true.
They give them, they freely give them, yes. And it's all about social engineering. So I think people need to learn to reduce the amount of implicit trust that they put in strangers. Someone calls you and they tell you this and you accept it. And the other thing is the desire to win where you have not even done anything. Someone calls you and tells you that you have won
wealth.
and you want to get into it. No. So yes, there are risks that are involved. It means that when you deploy these platforms, whether it's in your data center, whether it's in your cloud or whatever, mitigations, measures, cybersecurity or security, it needs to be audited. You have to simulate what are the ways in which people can interfere with your system. Yeah. But I think above all is just education, that people need to be conscious of that. Yeah. You can't just give anyone your wallet in the street.
No, you can't.
So why should you give them the PIN to anything that you have? It's the same concept that we have to understand.
So Mr. Maseko, who are the gainers? Who stands to win in this phase that we're in, the fourth industrial revolution, and in particular digital transformation? In your view, who do you feel needs to quickly jump onto this opportunity and invest money in improving their capacity as they digitalize?
Yeah, I think they're winning both parties because you've got the serving and the served. Yeah. Both parties tend to win. I mentioned that on top, I put customer experience as top of it. So as a customer who is consuming a service, whether it's education, it's media, it's my financial services, I'm a winner in there because I save on time, it's efficient, I can keep track. As a business, you also win because you reduce the cost of doing business. Of course, you might say that certain levels of implementation means that you have less human beings doing particular tasks. I think that is bound to come because even when the first revolution started, when factories and these lines were being created, there are certain things that previously were done manually that were now done through machines. There was an adaptation in terms of skill. The way I look at it is that it's just the change of skills. There are things that machines can do and things that machines can't do. So we need to start investing in skills that are not easily done by machines because those will become the most sought after skills of the future.
With the coming of the new Dawn administration, Mr. Maseko, I want you to just help us understand how timely it was for them to introduce a Ministry of Technology, which was like it was on its own, because before we had it in other ministries, it was science and technology and vocational training, but now it's just simply on its own. Obviously, the emphasis from government is straightforward. But so far, how would you see the government following through on this new ministry? Do you think they are doing enough? And how have you kind of tapped into that opportunity from the government?
Okay, that's a very good question, interesting. I think to start with, the decision to have the Ministry of Technology and Science was a brilliant strategic move, because we know that every sector in our economy has some element of technology that it needs to leverage for it to accelerate its performance. And to create a ministry whose focus is on that, I think is a plus that they did. What has been done? What are we seeing? I think to start with, to me, the pronouncements that have been made are the right ones. Yeah. We've had, as Inc., we've had some sessions with the minister, Honorable Mutati, and you can see the passion that he has in this and the ideas that keep on flowing. Of course, he's got many people that have come to talk to him, and I know he's able to decipher and come up with something that is. So, in the first place, there's a talk about, can we make Zambia a digital hub? Yeah. And I believe we can, its location and everything. But for us to make it into a digital hub, we have to ensure that our infrastructure is welcoming. We have to ensure that we are interconnected well with our neighbors, because we are landlocked. Land-linked, rather. We need to leverage that positioning. If we have our connectivity in the neighboring country, let it be perfect. If we are going to attract or build hyperscale data centers in Zambia, so that we can allow the hosting of content in this country, that is going to drive that idea. It's going to drive people, innovators, people that are doing fintech applications, people with innovative solutions, because there's a home for it to be. So that for me is a positive. Yeah. Of course, there's an issue of regulation. How is the existing regulation matching our ambition in making a digital hub? Does it allow us, or does it promote free movement of content between Zambia, Zimbabwe? Is the issue of restricting the data, that you can only keep data within Zambia, a certain amount of data? Yeah. Does it work for us in attracting others? Because if we say we only keep our data, how do we get others to keep their data with us if we can't externalize that? Of course, there's an element where we need to determine what is critical data, what needs to be controlled, but we need to create an environment that is welcoming. Right. The digital transformation is going to be done by you and me. Government can only provide a platform. But I'm glad to see that, yes, there's also effort in government in trying to do some of these services. We've got the portal that we now use for different services. That is the plus. That is part of digital transformation and needs to be encouraged in there. So I think it's in the right place. We're yet to see more in terms of actions. The pronouncements are okay. They are speaking into the right direction. Yeah. We need to harmonize that with legislation. Yeah.
And speaking of your last statement, where government actually has created that environment. I'll now move to the service providers, Mr. Maseko, where you actually fall in, and I'll put you on the spot. I'm sure you follow complaints. Different service providers in this digital transformation space are not coming up to speed. I mean, there are people that have traveled, they're exposed, they'll tell you that, look, if I'm in X country, access to these things is very quick. Over here, you have issues of network and whatever. How are service providers doing in terms of matching up to the government? Because we can sit here and say the government has taken 10 steps ahead of everybody else. They formed the Ministry of Technology and Science. But have service providers moved the same space, or there's still areas where you feel they can improve? Because I'll be very honest with you, 80% of the time people complain of service from service providers. So personally, I don't think they are matching up to where government is right now. But what's the best way forward for service providers. And in this question, I'd like you to even maybe take advantage and tell us where yourselves as Inc., where you are placed in terms of the race to moving forward.
Okay, so I think when it comes to what is happening in terms of service providers, I believe that when we talk about quality, we cannot induce quality in our communication infrastructure simply by dictates, by policing, because each one of the organizations that are operating in this industry, they have a model. Yeah. I don't think there's any operator that is operating as a non-profit making. Yeah. They all need to profit. So it's an issue of competition. Yeah. In my view, competition is the biggest driver of efficiency, the biggest driver of quality of service. Yes, the government can regulate, ZICTA can put in quality of service guidelines that need to be adhered to. That is fine. But at the end of it, service providers need to step up and ensure that they are differentiated from everyone else. I think given there's been quite an extensive infrastructure development as far as communication is concerned. There's been fiber. I think roads get disrupted because of
I've seen that.
Route of fiber. Yeah. The issue, of course, is it coordinated? Is it not coordinated? But that's beside the point. But there's investment that is going into the infrastructure. And the more content is being sought, the more infrastructure is being built.
Right.
The communication infrastructure is the bedrock on which now we're talking about digital services. Right. And that's where now we come in as Inc., because you mentioned that previously we were called AfriConnect as an internet service provider, ISP. We now regard ourselves as a DSP. That's a digital service provider. Okay. So what we're saying, well and good, we can provide the connectivity, but what are we doing to transform lives? It's not simply giving you a connectivity, because connectivity becomes a utility on which you ride. Right. So we are now a digital service provider, and that's why we're launching applications, we're launching services that speak into transforming businesses. So that is our area of focus, and the solutions that we bring in the market, things like what we call Inc. Video AI. This is where now we're saying, okay, how do we ensure that these cameras that are installed, we give them the intelligence, we put artificial intelligence behind so that we can have predictive behavior, we can proactively detect things that human beings can miss. Human beings can be corrupted. But when you put an AI to monitor your critical infrastructure, it means that you safeguard it at the higher level. And then you talk about quality of service. There are solutions that we are bringing in, like SDN or software-defined wide area network. These are solutions that are aimed at optimizing your connection. As a business here, so if you have maybe 1-2 connections, and then you have a break in one, how do you ensure that the next connection is able to handle your critical data, even if it's not as high capacity as the primary one? So there's technology to do that, so that you cut out what is not necessary, but you only that which is business critical gets to be transmitted in there. So yes, service providers have a role, and most of it is about innovation and changing the mindset. The time of coming to give you a service is gone. I should come and sit with you and say, how is your business running? What are your challenges that you're experiencing? And then we go in our toolbox and say, okay, this challenge, we can devise a solution that is able to transform the way you transmit, can transform the way you manage your rota. We can transform the way that you manage your guests. I mean, how many places do you walk in where they give you a book to sign in your name and that?
Almost every place.
What insights do you get from that book? Nothing. But if you digitize that, it means that you are able to see, okay, during what time do you get most people
peak hours, and you can track all those things.
Correct. What do they come for? Is everyone coming to see someone at work, or they are coming for business? You're able to get that insight, and it helps you as a business to achieve what you're trying to do.
We're almost winding up, Mr. Maseko, so I'll bring it back to responsibility now as we wind up. First of all, I want to ask, do you think there's enough competition in your space? I feel there isn't. If you ask me, I wish there was 10 ISPs or DSPs and 15 telcos. So, we just have some sort of efficiencies. But I wanted to find out, as we are transforming, there is, everybody plays a role, in the whole process flow from end to end. So how do service providers, consumers, the government get married into enjoying the service end to end? Everybody has a role to play in terms of responsibilities.
Okay. I think the responsibility, I want to start it from a business.
Yeah.
If you're running a business, the responsibility to ensure that digital transformation happens in your organization, I think needs to rest at the very top with the board.
Yes.
The board needs to set a precedent. They need to set a tone that, look, can we transform the way that we are doing? Because remember that the board is responsible. They have that oversight. So if they give that mandate to management, the management will own the execution, the planning, even the execution, and they report back to the board. So in an organization, digital transformation strategy needs to be driven from the board.
Right.
If it's not done that way, you'll not get all the support because there are certain expenses that will be required that need to be justified. So if the top does not agree with what you're doing, it's a dead end.
Of course.
So in a business, it starts from the top, management, and then it has to be explained throughout the organization from an execution.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of other parties that are involved in it, yes, I mentioned that government needs to set, the regulations need to be future-looking. They need to be friendly with the digital web. They need to be friendly with the fourth revolution. So they need to set the right, if it's incentive, if the incentives are required, let them be there. But I think mostly is you create an environment, let the competition come in.
Right.
You cannot do digital transformation without the digital media. So connectivity is key.
Correct.
So service providers, you asked whether we've got sufficient competition. I think at the connectivity level, we've got sufficient competition. What is lacking now is translating your pain in business into a solution. So we need more digital service providers. We need competition. Right now, we're not seeing it. We need competition as
I like that,
So that is, for me, that is an area now that translates your pain into a solution using the technology that is available in there. And look, the more our minds open, we have a lot of brilliant young people that have access to maybe a laptop or whatever. They learn coding and things like that. We need to encourage those to come up with ideas of how do I do this? Look at something and say, okay, how can I make it more efficient using technology? That's a mindset we need to create in our younger people so that they play a role as well. I think youths are quite innovative. I've seen what has happened in fintech. There are a lot of young people that have created brilliant applications that have been adopted. And youths need to realize that, look, we are in the fourth revolution. This is their time. So they have a role to play there as well.
Right. We've come to the end of the show, but I want to ask you one last question, which is very simple and straightforward as we wind up. Is Zambia ready in this fourth industrial revolution when we speak digital transformation in general? A yes or no? If we are not, what do we need to do quick? If we are on the right path, then we're good to go.
We are I think we've just opened the door.
Okay.
Yes.
So what do we need to do quick to catch up, or at least be comfortable that we're going to win this race in this period of time?
I think I think it starts from the demand side, which is the business. The businesses need to understand that there's something better that can happen. They can run their businesses, whether they're manufacturing, whether they're in media, whether they're in education, whatever. They need to realize they can do it better. And that is the demand side. And then as service providers, we come in and say, look, can we help you do this? And we walk that path together as a partner.
All right. And then government has to provide the environment.
The environment,
which
yes.
For now, at least it seems they have
they are speaking the right language, and I think we'll see more happening in that area.
All right, Mr. Maseko, thank you so much for coming through to Money Watch Weekly.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that was Mr. Raphael Maseko, the CEO of Inc. Digital Zambia. From here, of course, Zambia, and of course, he comes through to discuss digital transformation. Are you ready for the transformation? If you are not, I guess you've heard from the experts, you need to get up and fold your sleeves and get moving. Most companies, especially some banks, you've seen them closing down branches because they want to enhance their digital platforms. So some of you are asking, maybe the bank is 4D. No, some people are actually way ahead of the time. So if you're not, you need to jack up. My name is Joella Chomba. Thank you for coming to season 3 of Money Watch in the first episode. See you next week.